Chiefs are ready to square up for week number 3 against the Falcons. What has to happen to get this W? And who's going to be running the ball today on Locked On Chiefs?
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Red Friday. Hope you guys are ready for the Falcons. We're brought to you today by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use our code, lowercase, LockedOnNFL, and you're going to get 50 instantly when you play $5. Super simple. Check out Prize Picks. We are going to check out the matchups, everything you need to know today, the X factors and our predictions for Chiefs versus Falcons. Do that later in the show. And then before, we're going to get to the keys that are going to lead to a win for your Chiefs and try to stay on that three-peat run. That's coming up next. And we're going to start with a couple of new questions. This is Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner. You can get his information over there. Go get subbed. I'm Ryan Tracy from Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, NFL33.com, and RGR Football. Make sure that you like, sub, hit the bell here on YouTube because that's where we start and where it always begins for free 5 days a week. Then we go out to the podcast platforms of Spotify and Apple Music and everywhere you can get a pod. You can get us free. If you want the insider information, as soon as we know it, as soon as it's important, check out 816-357-8781 and get on our locos line. We love you guys, and that's where we talk to them the most for our everydayers.
And I will be adding more content to the locos line coming soon with formations on third down and their ability to convert on third down. So be looking for that on the locos line, on the text line, 816-357-8781.
Rock and roll. And here we go. It's week 3 already. I know we've been waiting for a long time, but now it's time to get after it. So it comes down really to a couple of factors. We're going to talk about them later in the show, but there's also a couple of questions. And first and foremost has to be the decision that we're all waiting to hear about what's been able to go on with Kingsley Suamataia and who's going to start at left tackle this particular week. Andy Reid, Andy Heck been working on that, trying to connect and correct a few technique things so that I think he can get off the ball a little bit smoother, be in better position so it's not as one thing and then react, and it's a smoother connected movement is what I'm looking for from Kingsley. I think he ends up getting the start. How do you feel?
I hope he gets a start, and I hope that they look and they try to rotate to his side and give him a little bit of help to get going against Matt Judon. I think that this is a matchup that you have to be worried about. I think Judon is a fantastic pass rusher in his own right, and I do think that he's going to see a lot of Kingsley Suamataia if he is the starter at left tackle. But I think that this is a move that they need to continue to try to go with the rookie. I understand he had a bad game and a rough start the first 2 weeks, but the only way he's going to get better is playing, and the only way you're going to, really get those reps and get better as a pro is to get out there and go against the best, and that's what he has a chance to do this weekend.
And I personally have confidence in him. It's not that I don't have confidence in Lonnie Morris, who would be the other option, but it is that I do think he's better suited for the left tackle spot, whereas I do think that one is a little bit better suited at a guard spot or maybe on the right-hand side. Right-hand side is where he moved to catch that touchdown, right? Yeah, that's where he began on the right-hand side the other day. So I think that clearly is something that we know he can do. Either of them, I think, can be functional, but coming up later in the show, one of the keys is going to be dependent on both of them. And one way that we're going to try to answer the question that is number 2 on my mind is how do they choose to run the ball? This is going to be something, I hope, an extension of what we saw last week, where they were happy to grind. They were giving a lot of carries. The play call was as close to balance as you can ask for, in my opinion. But obviously, a lot of change at the running back spot this week. I feel like moving with Carson Strong is what Andy has said is the way that they're going to go, and I'm confident in that. I do feel they can pick up where they left off and grind that out. The kid did make some comments this week that he learned from his mistake in getting that ball punched out. And it's an opportunity for him to take a next step forward and carry the load here while the aforementioned Kareem Hunt is still working into shape and currently just sitting there on the practice squad, running with the scout team, trying to get back in the groove.
So I don't disagree. I think that Carson Steele is going to be a running back. I guess I look at this a little bit differently, and I think that the Chiefs need to start trying to throw a little bit more to open up the run, especially considering they're going to be going with a guy that hasn't really played much in the NFL. I think, and I tweeted this out just a little bit ago about Patrick Mahomes, he is down basically 10 attempts per game on his average in his NFL career. And I do think that that actually makes a huge difference in how this offense is going to run. I get that defenses are trying to make them run, and I understand that. And I will also say the Bengals have usually had Patrick Mahomes' number, so that doesn't really shock me that his pass attempts were down last week, and his yards per attempt and his air yards per attempt were down. But I do think that they need to get back to who they are as an offense, and I think that they have the weapons to do so. So I'm hoping they put the ball in the air a little bit more this week and maybe try to pass more to set up the run to help Carson Steele out a little bit.
So in that kind of ratio, what's the scenario that you want? Who do you target the most? What are you trying to do with your setup in the pass game to then open up the run?
Well, I think you have to, look at, Juju didn't get any targets last week at all. Travis Kelce got very few targets. And I think I would have to go back and look at my charting, but I think he got maybe one target on the day other than the one that got called back. That was a long pass play. And that's really not something you can do. You need to get Travis Kelce involved in this offense. You need to get Juju involved in some regards, just in the middle of the field and trying to open up the intermediates and not make it so obvious when you're going to be running. I have no problem with what they were doing last week because it was working early on. If you go back and watch the first drive, they didn't get into third down until they got inside the 10-yard line, I believe. And then they had 2 third downs inside. Well, I guess it was 2 third downs inside the 20 and 1 inside the 5. So in that scenario, I think that you're in a situation where, they were running the ball well. They were, getting 5, 6, 7 yards of carry, sometimes 8 yards of carry. I think they had 5 or maybe 8 plays that had 5 yards plus on each play. Hard to really say that they're doing something wrong. I'm just saying that you need to get Samaje Perine more involved in this game. I think that you need to use him in some situations other than third down. I know that's his specialty, but try to get him involved in the passing game a little bit more to open up things as well.
I think that goes as the basis for how you can attack with the offense. But is that one of the keys? What's the most important things to getting this W? That's coming up next. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Now they have a chance for you to do exactly what I do every single week. They have something a little bit different for you right now. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet just $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube base plan account, all you got to do is watch every single regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. No problem. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. You can get into the action just by being here and being subbed. So make sure that you click that button and you're with us every single day because we have content for you every single day. And this is what my favorite point is trying to make these keys stand out to life. And for me, I like to look at the matchups. And when I do, especially if we follow up with your concept of throwing the ball more, of getting back to a throw-first mentality, for me, the #1 key for Patrick Mahomes in that offense is to be able to manipulate and disguise what you're doing to the 2 safeties. Justin Simmons has played this team quite a lot. He knows Mahomes. He's made some big plays against Mahomes. Jesse Bates is coming off of his best game performance in Atlanta for sure, but maybe his best game performance in a couple of years and is at the height there. And so for new targets like Xavier Worthy and doubling down on Rashee Rice, it's got to be manipulation in order to set up those chunk plays if you want to throw that much. And I do think that's got to be the #1 target in the game plan.
Yeah, and I have no problem if it's, shots downfield or if it's just intermediate and short passes. This offense, I think, can go both directions. Mahomes has to make better decisions. And my biggest key, and I said this on the crossover yesterday, and I'm going to say it until they actually get it done, is they have to win the turnover battle. It should not be a game. It shouldn't have been a game against the Bengals. If they win the turnover battle, it's not a game. If they win the turnover battle against Atlanta, it should not be a game. This team is better than what the Falcons are, but they have to take care of the ball, and that starts with Patrick Mahomes because he had 2 very bad interceptions. One that was egregious against the Bengals, and another that was pretty bad. And then you throw in the rookie fumbling the ball. Obviously, you're going to have those types of things happen, and you have to try to find a way to get past it. But you have to win the turnover battle, and they have to get back to a place where they're winning the turnover battle on a consistent basis. Last year, that was one of their downfalls, and one of the reasons they struggled so much is because they kept turning the ball over, and I think they were negative the entire season. You're not going to generally win in the NFL being negative in the turnover battle against most teams. And while you may be able to beat the Falcons being negative in the turnover battle, you go up against the Chargers next week, who are 2-0 and probably going to move to 3-0 this week. Then you go up against the Saints, who are on fire. If you lose the turnover battle against the Saints, you're going to take a loss. And that doesn't even – and then they come back and play the 49ers. They have the Bills later in the year. There's just so many good teams that they play because of their schedule. You have to find a way to take care of the ball, and you have to be consistent with that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. My other main key is on the defensive side of the ball. They have to get this done in order, I think, to produce either those turnovers or to keep the offense that does have a lot of big-time players on it in Atlanta. Ian Drake London, who had a really nice game the other night. Pitts is out there. Obviously, you have a lot of connections underneath. It's getting to the passer. This is not a situation where you either had like the elite scrambler in Lamar Jackson or a guy that's underrated at scrambling in Joe Burrow. This is a statuesque player that can move around the pocket, but not necessarily out of it. So it falls to the tackle matchups, in my opinion. Chris Jones is going to be Chris Jones. I would not be surprised to see him line up on the other side at the left-hand tackle spot to go against the right guard who struggled last week, or either of the edge positions, because you have Caleb McGrary, who's a solid right tackle, but can be had. And you have Jake Matthews, who's getting up there. I do think it's about getting pressure on Kirk Cousins in order to produce some of the plays that we know right now he's liable to give up.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this earlier in the week, or I talked about it on the crossover, I guess was maybe what happened. But one of the big things for me, and this is a key to me, it's make them beat you, make Kirk beat you. Make it, bring the safeties up in the box, stop the running game, stop Bijan Robinson, double Pitts, and probably double Drake London. And if they can beat you with Moody, then they beat you with Moody. I go back to what I said last week. In my opinion, lining Trent McDuffie against Moody would be fine with me, and then double Drake London and double Pitts, and I think you have a pretty good plan, a pretty solid plan on stopping their pass offense. But you have to stop the running game, because the one thing that the Chiefs are lacking right now is depth at the defensive line position, and that is going to cause them issues if they continue to play against teams that are going to be allowed to run the ball. The Ravens, the reason the Ravens were able to come back is because they could continue to run the ball. Lamar Jackson was able to get out of the pocket. It's different because Kirk isn't going to do that, but they don't have the defensive line to be able to rotate in. It's too early in the season. They don't have the guys that are in the condition that they need to be in yet. That's just part of getting an early game in the NFL at this point. They need to get to a point where they can just continuously stop the run and make Kirk beat them. The other thing that I think really sticks out to me is when you try to make Kirk Cousins beat you, if you go back and watch his game against the Eagles, you go back and watch the second and third quarter, one of the things that I noticed was he's not stepping into his throws. He is not throwing with power. His throws are usually short, and they're floating a little bit more than they should. If you go back and watch the final drive against the Eagles, where he was able to do it in the 2-minute drill, he was putting pace and he was putting power behind those throws. Power for him. Let me be clear on that. Power for him on those throws. And that made a huge difference because he gets the ball there quicker, lets the guys get set up when they catch it. There are so many things that the Chiefs can do if they get it to a point where he has to throw on a consistent basis, 2 or 3 times every set of times he gets the ball. And I don't think he's ready. I don't think he's healthy enough yet to really be playing how he is. And I think that they can take advantage of that.
I absolutely agree with you in that step through to develop that power is the key. So if you can even just back the guards up a little bit, especially on the right-hand side, I think you're going to have some success because he does feel like he wants to go to the right a little bit more, and opening his hip and stepping to the left is a little bit less natural for him. He's done it 1,000 times, but I think it's just enough that you can get the advantage there. So that's how you get to a win, but there's always something that gets thrown in there.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the big difference between there's a ton of differences between Mahomes and Kirk Cousins, obviously, but one of the biggest differences is obviously the arm strength. Mahomes can throw with just his arm. Kirk really can't. That is going to, I think that could be a huge point in this game is if they can get him to be throwing off his back foot or just throwing with his arm like he did multiple times against the Eagles who didn't take advantage of it. That could be a huge key for this defense.
It certainly can. Those are what they need to get done to get a win. But there's always something that can pop its head in and make itself a differentiator. What are the X factors coming up next? Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active users. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps, Prize Picks, you just bet you against the numbers. Super simple. All you have to do is go more or less on 2 to 6 players of your choosing in a projection and watch the winnings roll in. Right now, they're giving you a deal. Caleb Williams, 1 yard. We've seen this deal for Patrick Mahomes before. Every week in September, that's right. You only need 1 yard to get a win right there. 4 weeks for free W's is what you're looking for over on Prize Picks. I really love that one. I love the over-under on Patrick Mahomes because it's about targets versus yards, and you can always get something that's Chiefs-related as well. So check it out. Download the Prize Picks apps right now. Use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and you get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Check out the Locked On NFL Today show. It is twice a day now, so you can get double doses. Double doses is what I want to see happen in 2 unique ways. As we talked about earlier, the pass game has a tendency to be something that the Falcons can defend pretty well. They have A.J. Terrell out there as well, a sizable outside corner that I think has played pretty well as of late. But there's an opportunity in the slot, and that's something that I'm really, really intrigued to try to take advantage of. And it comes down to Xavier Worthy's ability to not line up outside, but to come inside and let Rasheed handle the outside business, maybe some Justin Watson. I really want to see the matchup of Xavier Worthy on the slot corner, D. Alford in particular, but what that does to the defense. Do you get cheating? Do you get the ability to pull the safeties with Worthy's routes in order to get Rasheed open, to get Juju open, to attack with Kels? I don't think that they can double Kels. I think it comes back to stretching with the guy that scares them the most, and that's Worthy.
Well, and I'm going to be curious to see how they do this because one of the things that you saw week 1 was Rashee Rice in the slot a lot. And I wonder if that's going to be something that we may see a little bit more of in Atlanta. And I know you want to see Worthy there, and I can't say I blame you too much, but I'm curious if they want to just see if Rice can take over again in the slot and continue that role. I do think that Worthy has the ability to be used on the outside, and I think that he'll be fine in that aspect. The thing that really is a big key here to me is you're now in week 3 of getting a guy like Juju back. And I'm not expecting a huge thing from Juju, but if he can get 2 or 3 targets a game and be consistent and get 2 or 3 catches a game and get 20 or 30 yards, that opens up the offense a lot more than you would think it would. Just getting somebody that's consistent that is going to get you those extra catches is going to be something that could really help this offense. Justin Watson has shown his ability to do that from time to time. That is something that would be helpful. And they used Wiley for the first time last week. So how are they going to use it, the 3 tight end sets that they have? Are they going to get Noah Gray involved in this? There's lots of different ways that they can go and they can attack. I do think that they have the ability to pass the ball against this Falcons defense. And I do think that if you can get the pass going against this Falcons defense, then you can get a situation where, you have more guys backing up and worrying about the pass, and then you can run more with Carson Steele, maybe right up the gut and get, 3, 4, 5 yards of carry, because I do think that's going to be an important part of the game plan as well.
Makes sense. I think when I'm guarding against what I don't want to be an X factor, what I need to know is who's going to guard the running backs out of the backfield, because it's been a problem so far to this point with the linebacker coverage abilities. Leo on the upswing, maybe Trent not doing as much as we thought he would, but it's one thing to have Derrick Henry who is going to hurt you in the run game. You know how to stop them. They did a good job. Last week's run game was not particularly potent. Bijan Robinson is a two-way player. And I think he's even more scary in the screen game, in the swing game. Catching passes out of the backfield is something that if I'm Atlanta, that's what I'm focusing on. So the other X factor for me is how do they choose to defend that? Do they stick with the 3 linebacker sets? Do they bring in Jaden Hicks now? Do they let him run a little bit more? Because I do feel he can keep up with Bijan Robinson. I think that is going to be the matchup to watch when it comes to how the Chiefs choose to defend them.
You know, I get why you're saying Bijan Robinson is the guy because they're the ones that use Bijan Robinson. I mean, he is a focal point of their offense. The one that I've never understood when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons is why they don't use their terrific tight end in Kyle Pitts. And to me, that's the biggest X factor in this. And you look at how bad the Chiefs have been, almost historically so, it seems like, against the tight ends to start the season. And that is a nightmare matchup for me. The one thing I will say, and the one thing that I take solace in, is that Atlanta hasn't used Kyle Pitts effectively. So it's possible that they could be looking at this and saying, well, yeah, Kyle Pitts would be great in this, but still not use him to the extent that they should. And I agree with you. I mean, I think Jaden Hicks is a great option, and I'd bring Jaden Hicks in and I'd just have him go against Kyle Pitts. And yeah, he's going to be a little bit smaller. He might get beat a couple of times, but you can still double Kyle Pitts and take away that scenario and try to slow the offense down in that regard. And if they start opening up things and beating you with other players, that's a different situation. But, you know, Drake London is their big wide receiver threat. Moody is pretty good, and Pitts can be a dangerous weapon, but they don't really use them on a consistent basis. And this offense is still trying to find itself with Kirk Cousins as their QB. So to me, take away Bijan Robinson in the running game. And I think that also kind of goes back to in the screen game as well. I think that, you know, anytime where it's a situation where it could be a run or a pass, you know, a first down situation, you have to watch out for the screen game and they have to be ready for it. And maybe that's getting Jaden Hicks out there and having him just lock up against Bijan Robinson. And that's going to be his guy coming out of the backfield. There's lots of different ways to do it. But to me, if you make this a one-dimensional team against, you know, Kirk Cousins, I think Kansas City is going to win, and I think it's going to not maybe be close.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. In the end, it comes down to how you match up and how you adjust in this ballgame. I'd love to say that it's going to be a big blowout, but I'll let you go first. How do you see this happening?
I'm not going to say it's going to be a blowout. I think the thing that we need to find and the Chiefs need to find is they need to find rhythm on the offensive side. And you go back and watch the first drive last week, and we talked about this. I talked about this a little bit earlier. They marched down the field on first and second down. They were getting 5 yards a pop on first and second down, and they didn't get to third down until they got into the red zone. And then they weren't able to punch it in. That's a problem they'll have to get figured out. But the point is that they had the ability to do it, and then they come back the next drive, and Patrick throws that inexplicable pick just in the middle of the field on something that he should have seen. If they can avoid doing things like that, I think this offense is going to move the ball fine. I think they're going to score points, and I don't think that's going to be an issue. Defensively, I still don't think that they know exactly where they are. And I think that they're still trying to find themselves, which is about normal, honestly, for a Steve Spagnuolo defense. I think that it gets better as the year goes on, as he gets to know his players and knows what they can do. So I do think that that'll change things. So to me, I look at this and I'm going to go probably, I want to say 28 to, I think I'm going to change. I did 28-20 yesterday. I think I'm going to go 28-17 Kansas City.
I think in the end, the defense is going to give up some chunks. They're going to let a couple plays in. Falcons put up 22 against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that's about the same. I'm going to call it 21 for the Falcons and leave themselves a little bit of room. On the other side, though, the Chiefs need to find that next gear. And you may absolutely be right that if they do focus on the pass game, I do think that lends itself to some bigger plays. So I'm going to call it 28-21 and be kind of vanilla about it, but a 7-point ball game.
Fair enough. I just don't know that I trust the Philadelphia Eagles to be a good differentiator as to who's a good offense. I don't think their defense has been playing very well. So I do think that you go back and watch week one and they didn't score very many points week one. So I don't see the Falcons being able to move the ball consistently. We'll see who's right or wrong. I'm really looking forward to the game. I'm looking forward to another Sunday night game. It's always fun to have the Chiefs in primetime. And
Yeah,
we will
it'll be a
be
great time. We will be live.
right after. I was about to say right after.
So join us. We'll have Matt and Derek with us as we always do for your post game. We will run it down for you and get ready for the post game activities. Thanks for being with us. Make sure that you like and sub and hit that bell and get with us on the audio podcast. Sign up at 816-357-8781 for the Locos line for any breaking news that may happen between now and kickoff. And we'll see you live for the post